Hey moms, welcome to the Virtual Six Figure Mom Podcast, a show for moms who want to achieve their definition of success while managing their day-to-day responsibilities and maintaining some sense of sanity along the way. Let's jump into today's episode. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, mom friends. It's Christina again, and today we have such an amazing guest. I've already told her that this conversation is kind of like my therapy in front of you all as I work to improve my own energy levels and find that healthy balance in communicating as a mom at home, right? And how to move kind of my narrative, my mission, my focus forward at home, and then also at work, right? And what that balance looks like. We often talk about balanced success here. And so this woman we have is not only a mom, but she's an executive coach and communication consultant, television and radio news reporter, producer, writer, has spent several years in PR and marketing. We have Miss Tiana here today. Thank you, Miss Tiana.
Thank you so much. Wow, listening to your intro, I'm like, I've led many, many lives. Whoa.
Yes.
I have a live for each of my kids.
I love it. All right. So that was my high level introduction. Tell us who you are. Tell us what you do.
Yeah. So as you said, I'm an executive coach. My name is Tihanna Louise. And, the gist of what I do is I help smart, thoughtful professionals, mostly women, think better, speak better so they can lead better. That looks like me doing a lot of one-to-one coaching. I do a lot of corporate trainings, particularly around corporate communications internally and externally, as well as leadership development. And inside of leadership development, what I really focus on is helping executives shift their perceptions, perspectives, and the way they approach relationship with their teammates, their clients, all of the audiences that they say they care about.
Awesome. That sounds like a lot. But also it has the potential to be super rewarding. And you're a mom. How many kids do you have?
I have 4 beautiful, awesome, amazing, successful children. You can tell I'm a proud mom.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So I have 4 ranging in age from 22 to 9. So my oldest is 22. She's an adult. And then I have 20 boys who are 16. And then I have a young daughter who is 9.
Wow. All awesome, I'm sure.
Very awesome, amazing, and very different. So I really have led different lives and brought different parts of me to being with each of them. Yeah.
That's interesting you say that, because I often say, and I have a 24-year-old daughter, almost 25, and I have a 16-year-old daughter. And I think about how different I was raising the 24-year-old versus the now 16-year-old, right? I feel like I was a completely different person. Do you find that? And I know every child is different, so naturally that's the case, but I was different.
Yeah, no, I was totally different. I had my first child during my college years, and I made a very clear decision that I would be the best mom that I could be. And I meant, games, nurturing, changing like I was going to be present, and I was going to be an amazing mom. And I was also going to have an amazing career. So my oldest daughter, I call her my hustler kid because she was with me during a lot of the years that I was hustling and moving up the ranks in, media, which is not broadcast news is not a business that's for the faint of heart. I liken it to like Hollywood, right? Everybody's trying to make it. And so she bared the brunt of the 60, 70 plus hour work weeks.
Yeah.
Mommy getting up at 1 a.m. to go do a producer shift on Christmas morning and then being back at 9 a.m. And guess what? By the time she woke up, all the, presents and stuff were under the tree.
Wow.
And even though I was doing everything, it definitely had an impact on her when she looks at, her 9-year-old sister now, who's getting the best of me, I don't know, 15 some odd years later, 10, 15 years later, because I'm inside of my own business. I work my own schedule. I'm always home, right?
Yeah.
And so we talk about that all the time. And not only am I different, I definitely see my kids are different, right? Because of them having different parts of me at different phases of my life. I don't regret any of it, right?
Yeah.
But it is what it is, yeah.
That's such a real thing. And I don't talk about it enough. I imagine other moms don't talk about it enough either, kind of accepting the fact that we raise our kids differently, especially when they're spaced, right? So 22 to 9 and 24 to 16, we raise them differently because we are different people. We've evolved over the years. And sometimes, right, if I'm being transparent, that has caused issues where my oldest is like, well, I didn't get that you. And when I was growing up, da 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 da. And I'm like, I did my best with what I had,
Yeah, I've definitely had those conversations with my kid, and I respect that as that being her journey, her path. And then just as a mom, to keep it all the way 100, I'm a little grateful that that's like the kind of AKA, quote unquote trauma that she has versus some of the stuff that, I had, not to compare or diminish, but that comes up for me if we're going to try to find something to be grateful about here. And what I do inside of that conversation with her is acknowledge it as that's her path. That's really real and painful for her. And I take responsibility for it because like I said, it was a clear decision that I made that I was going to have both worlds and she was going to be a part of that. So in hindsight, actually made that decision for her, right? And maybe that wasn't fair. But what I also love about it, and this is where she and I do agree, is that she's also the toughest of my kids, right? Like she
bounced back.
After school, after she was done with school, she totally went off on her own. She's created her own life on the East Coast. I mean, she's doing things that I know my other kids would, be checking in with me a little more about. She calls me and lets me know what's done when it's done. And I'm proud of her for that. And I know that's because she's always had to be a little bit of maverick. And she saw me in those years. And I was definitely, beasting my way through the broadcast ranks. So.
Oh my gosh, I get that in a major way. And I think really just about how we communicate with our kids says a lot. So this platform is Virtual Six-Figure Mom, and I really focus on what balanced success looks like, recognizing that everyone defines success differently. Like, so for you, you were climbing the corporate ladder at that point, right? And you figured, okay, I need to maybe sacrifice this today or sacrifice that today. In my head, that's balance. And I know some definitions of balance may look like 50-50. For me, it's whatever it is that's in correct proportion based on what I'm working on in that moment. And I reserve the right to shift and flex as needed. So I realized years ago, I had what in my head I believe to be balanced success. I worked from home. I earned 6 figures. I'm a single mom of 2. And I was like, I have this thing figured out. And then I realized that I don't always have it figured out. So like with the slightest shift with aging parents, to speak for my parents, with aging parents as a caregiver, balance looks completely different. What worked for me yesterday doesn't work for me today. But recognizing that and hearing you talk about sort of the grind, not even sort of, the true grind of having a daughter in college, having a child, and still committing to whatever you defined as success in that time. And it worked out.
Yeah.
It worked out. I can't imagine it was easy, but
No.
it worked out. And
Yeah.
you're able to have those conversations with her now to say, it wasn't fun. It wasn't easy. Maybe wasn't the best, right? But you're here and you're doing exceptionally well. I think about the mom who is sort of chasing success or pursuing success or has identified what success looks like. And she realizes, man, there are going to be some, late nights and early mornings. Talk to me a little bit about your thoughts around how that can be communicated to your child. And I imagine it differs from age to age. But what are your thoughts around that? Like how we communicate that in the moment to maybe soften the blow a little bit?
Yeah, see, I'm a firm believer that there's no softening the blow.
Mm.
One thing that my kids, if they were here, they'd go, yeah, like I'm a straight shooter when it comes to communication. I'm very direct. I've learned over the years to balance my directness, my assertiveness with, balance my warmth and authority. And so what I would say, it's not necessarily about softening the blow because the truth is the truth, but wrapping it in the full truth of your love, right? Because I know as a mom, and when I had my daughter, I was a single mom. I went on to get married and things like that. But then I, chose to get divorced and things, so I always had that single mom type energy. And I just always told my daughter, like, number one, why I was doing things, even at 5, 6 years old. I'm doing this because you see this house that we live in, this is an apartment. And I want a house for you where you can have your own backyard and we can go to the park and whatnot. And I've identified one way to do this. It's not the only way, but it's a way that I want to do it because I also get to do something that I love to do called the news. And that'll make me happy. See, you get to get what you want, which is a backyard and a bigger room. I get to get what I want, which is making you happy and excelling at my career. Right. And then doing that in a loving manner, but not sugarcoating. I walk my kids through everything that I've been through. One thing that I don't do, I don't lie to them. I don't white lie to them. It is what it is. And that's one thing that I really appreciated about my mom. Some people, I remember being a kid and some people saying, well, she's too young. You shouldn't tell her that. Or no, actually she should, because it allowed me to see her for who she really was. I never, ever, I was not one of those people who grew up thinking my mom was something that she turned out not to be. I never had any disappointment or anything of that nature because she was just so real and showing me everything that she was and what she was about,
Yeah.
Good, bad, right, wrong. And I think in today's time, when there's so many things competing for our kids outside of our homes, that's your kryptonite.
Yeah. Yeah.
If they can't get it real at home, then they'll fall for the fake everywhere else. Essentially.
Wow.
And I grew up in Oakland, California, and that's a melting pot of many different things, and I was exposed to many good things and not so good things, but because of who my parents were, I was always really clear about who I was and what I wanted and what I was willing to be part of. And so I credit that with them not softening the blow.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I think about my upbringing in not Oakland, but Queens, New York. And some great things, and exposed to some not so great things, not so amazing things. um I have a different appreciation for the real, I think. um and my hope is to raise my kids in that same way. And so I hear you loud and clear with that. Let me ask you something, because you touched on single mom energy. um and I imagine, married moms have this thing too, where energy, especially as we're pursuing our goals, our dreams, energy isn't always there,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
Um, and I'll be completely honest, right? I don't know how to energize myself sometimes, and not along this entrepreneurial journey, which is not for the weak. But even in corporate, there are times I'm like, I'm tired, like,
Yeah.
why am I lacking in energy? I'm no spring chicken, but at the same time, I feel like I should have more energy as a mom at home, more energy at work. And something that occurred to me, I think I was reading something or listening to a book on Audible, that it might have been tied to motivation. It might have been tied to the fact that I really wasn't interested in doing what I was doing.
Hmm.
What are your thoughts on mom energy? Because I had that hustle
Yeah.
at one point in my life, and I'm trying to tap back into it.
Yeah.
Um, Talk to me about the drained mom who just wants like a little pep in her step.
Yeah, I talk about this on my blog a lot, and
Mhm.
it's another reason. When you were talking, it came up for me, another reason why I'm so grateful that my mom didn't soften the blow so much, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Because in allowing me to see what was really going on with her, within reason, I also got an insider's look on how she chose to course correct. Right.
Ooh.
So I knew about everything that was happening at her job, the discrimination, the rape, the toxic coworkers, and how she was handling that. Not the emails she was writing at the time, but the letters she was typing and what she was
Yeah.
saying. And one thing my mom was really good at was managing her energy. And I feel so blessed to be doing this podcast and talking about her, because her birthday just passed and she passed away in 2020. But um
So sorry.
no, thank you for that. But it's a blessing just to have known her. But anyway,
Mhm.
the way she managed her energy,
Mhm.
my mom could rest with the best of them. I mean,
Mhm.
this woman knew how to go, hold on, I'm disconnecting from me. And while this job and you, all of you are important, all these bills, this house, nothing is more important to me. She had an innate sense of when she started to disconnect from herself, because everything that you were saying, maybe it's the motivation, maybe it's well, at the heart of it is a disconnection from self. Like the
Mhm.
self inside of you is telling you, hey, we are becoming so disconnected that we're moving toward being non-operational, right? And then the red flags start being waved and you start saying things like, I'm tired, I'm drained, I can't do this anymore,
Mhm. Mhm.
right? And so the first thing is really, and I work especially inside of my women in leadership circles. Um, the main thing that we work on is connection. And before we even think about connection with others, there has to be a deep, deep process and ritual of connection to self. I know when I look at who I was being um, inside of the inside of myself during the time where I was, nearing the end of my broadcast career. Like I knew it was like get out or die for me. It was literally like that. Like get out
Mhm.
or either you're going to die, somebody's going to die, like something bad is going to happen.
Yeah.
Get out of here. But when I look at who I was being, sure, externally, there were a lot of problems in the environment, at the job and whatnot. But the biggest problem is how I was not taking care of me. I mean, I would jump out of that bed, jump right into mommy mode, get the kids ready, get me ready, jump into that car, do the hour drive to the school because my kids went to private. So I had to take them outside of Oakland, come back to San Francisco, do the shift, probably going to be 10 hours. I had already meal prepped the food. So then race home, get that in the oven, then go to the night job because I'm, and then the lawn,
yeah.
Who am I being?
This resonates.
And even inside of the times where I called myself doing rest care or self-care, I'm going to, take some time for myself, hang out with the girls or, get my nails done or sleep in. That wasn't it. I'm going to tell you what really did it for me. When I'm talking about connection to self, I'm talking about connection to my source. Now, some people, call it God, the divine, the one. I call it my energy, right? Like really, the way we brush our teeth, the way we take care of our hair, taking care of and managing the mind and the energy. So now my day looks very different. And I mean, I'm lucky because I get to create my day as a business owner. But, in the morning, I wake up every morning at about 4:30. I'm just not jumping up. And I still have kids and they know, in the first 2 hours of the morning, we're not talking. This is my quiet time, my meditation time. Even if I'm walking around and making up beds and stuff, I'm meditating. It's called the walking meditation. And this is what I'm doing. I have to get my thoughts in order, get my mind in order. Some mornings it's journaling. Every morning at 5:30, though, it's inside of the gym.
Okay.
Because moving my body, and I do it definitely to, keep my weight, a certain way and look a certain way. But I do it mostly to keep my mind and my heart in coherence, right? Yes. There's never been a day. There's always a day where I don't want to go. But there's never been a day when I did it and left that gym that I wasn't flying at 150% capacity. And so those are the non-negotiables of my life, no matter where I am. My kids travel with me when I speak and do corporate trainings at the hotel I'm in. It's just a commitment that I've made to myself, a commitment to being connected with me. And I invite everybody to really take time to study themselves in such a way until they figure out what that thing is that pops them back into alignment. Yeah.
That you've said, I told you this whole episode is for me. And I know at least one other mom who could benefit from this. You said so much. And I think about how when burnout felt the most intense for me, it was when I wasn't doing those things. I wasn't meditating, which is so key for me and my sanity. Yeah. When I'm not doing that, I feel it. When I'm not reading in the morning, I love to take in a book, either a physical book or audiobook, 10, 15 minutes every morning, right? I love to stretch. At one point, I was doing it every single morning. I would start with core and yoga. And all of those things combined fueled me in a way that I was able to then step outside of my room and say, okay, I got this. I got it. Now I'm ready.
Yes.
Now I'm ready.
So, and I get it because I was that mom that was like, I don't have time. I can't. Oh, I'll sacrifice here. And listen, one of my mentors, I was actually talking about this with one of my mentors. Now, he is 70 years old. He does 500 push-ups per day.
Stop. I just need you to stop.
70. You really want to get that. and who's done 500 push-ups per day for years. I'm just trying to do 100 sit-ups a day. I'm
If I
just
could
trying
get
to
to
get to the gym
15.
every day. I'm like, okay. So I asked him, I said, well, okay. I'm trying to wrap my mind around this 500 push-ups every day. You do them every day. You've been doing it for years. There was one time where he couldn't because he injured his shoulder. But as soon as his shoulder was better, he counted all the days and then made up all those push-ups. Okay, so I said, well, what about, excuse me, sir, I said, just consider this. What about when life gets in the way?
Yeah.
And he like, I'm like, when you wake up late or you're on the road, you've been traveling, because him and his wife just came off this beautiful, like 56 days traveling thing and whatnot. I'm like, I know you guys had some late nights, few boozy brunches.
Few beverages.
What about when you're speaking back to back? You just don't have time, emergencies. He looked me dead in my eyes and said, life never gets in the way. And I said, well, that's something to consider, because I feel like it does. He says, your life is never getting in the way. Life can't get in the way. Life is life. He said, what's getting in the way is your commitment.
Ooh.
And then he said, when you commit to something, you don't have any choice. You've committed. You've given your word. So you don't have any choice but to do it. And then he said, which is why I'm very careful about what I commit to, because I know that once I commit, there's no way out. I can only go through. But the concept that life actually doesn't get in the way.
That's powerful.
It's our commitment that gets in the way. And he's right, because as soon as something comes up, then you start getting shaky on your commitments and you start managing them in a way where you start trying to shuffle them around. And then ultimately what ends up happening is the commitment, which should be the main number one priority in your life, which is you, is the first thing that usually goes out the window. Oh, I'm not going to go to the gym today. I'll go tomorrow. Oh, you know what? I'm so tired. I know I said I was going to brush my teeth and floss every night. I'll do it in the morning. And it's those little things that over time accumulate into big things. And if nothing else, every single time we break our word to ourselves, our trust for ourselves subconsciously starts to erode, because now we're training our mind and our body actually to not believe what we say. So then you start wondering why, man, when I say I'm going to get this promotion or I'm going to make this much money next year, and you don't really believe it. And then you start telling yourself things like, oh, I'm not worthy, or oh, it must be this thing that happened to me in my childhood. No.
Wow.
Actually, it's the fact that you've trained yourself not to trust yourself by not being your word to yourself.
We train ourselves not to trust ourselves by not being our word to
ourselves. Yeah. So I have I'm big on affirmations and words. Obviously, I'm a communications coach. And so by my door, I have a big Post-it note that just says practice. Because none of this is about getting anywhere. Let's be clear about that. Okay. We are where we are, wherever we are, and we're always only in the present moment. The past doesn't exist, and neither does the future. Right. So we're just always in the present. And in the present is always the opportunity to practice, to move toward the possibilities of the things that you want to create. Right. To practice, being your word. Practice doing those sit-ups. Practice going to the gym every morning. It's just one big practice. And if every day I can practice my connection to myself over and over and over again, well, when you practice something over and over and over again, what happens? You start to get really good at it. And usually when you do something over and over again, it becomes a habit. And the more habit forming it becomes, the more addicted to it you become. which in this case is a good thing.
Yeah. Ooh, okay, wait. Let me sit back. So commitment to self is kind of where we start, you think, or like starting point. If you don't know what it is that's going to, I don't know, what self-care looks like for you. Is it a matter of sitting down and journaling? Kind of talk me through, because I think this is going to be so critical for our virtual six-figure mom community. Kind of talk me through step one to get to know ourselves and what exactly we're committing to.
Yeah. So making the commitment to find the connection within you
Okay.
on a day-to-day basis, and oftentimes on a moment-to-moment basis.
Mm.
Yeah. There are thousands of thoughts running through our mind per day.
Mm-hmm.
I can't even, if we were to do the math, it's a lot per second, right?
Yeah.
And
Especially at 3 o'clock in the morning, but I digress.
yes. And then there's always the stimulation around you. And on top of the thoughts running through your mind, you always got this little device, in your hand right there by your bedside, which at 3 o'clock you go, let me just get on a scroll. So now you're thinking, you're scrolling, right? So finding the connection with you means being with you. You have to be with you, sit with yourself. Mm-hmm. For some people, that looks like meditation. For some people, that looks like journaling. For some people, that looks like just sitting in a park or taking a walk. I don't know what it looks like for you, but I know you'll know it when you find it, because it'll feel good. It'll feel like, okay, I can relax. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I can rest, right? Sometimes for me, it's cleaning. I do meditative cleaning all the time. I love cleaning and organizing, and some of my best and brightest ideas have come in those moments. But the commitment is to finding whatever that thing is in the moment that's going to get you connected, so you can, tune in and then be aware. Because until you're connected, you can't even be aware of possibilities. You can't even be aware of your energy and what's really going on in your mind, because you are the mind at that point. Yeah. So it's commitment, it's awareness, and then it's shifting, right? Because inside of that connection to yourself, you're going to have an attitude shift. You're going to have a focus shift, right? Mm-hmm, what you're choosing to focus on is going to shift. Your energy is going to rise. That's going to change your attitude. Yeah. And then you'll have a perspective shift. Nothing will change. Nothing will change, but you will be looking at everything totally different.
Wow. And I can see how that directly connects to energy level.
Yeah.
All of this.
But here's the catch.
Uh-oh.
Nothing in life, like you ever heard the saying, there's no free lunch?
Yes.
It all comes with the sacrifice, because there are going to be things that you're going to feel or may appear like you have to somehow sacrifice in order to have this connection to yourself. Because what we're talking about here is not rocket science. Like, women have this desire, but they're like, no, you don't understand. Like, I should be. Case in point, I'll use myself as an example. I came from the gym this morning. I cleaned up my house. I have some things that I need to do for some clients that I've promised to get done by today. I also am going to a screening of Wakanda later, and I have clients to see. So I have a packed day. And I said, and I needed to feed myself and nourish myself after I came from the gym. And I said, but I really need to connect to myself. And I'm feeling like at least an hour meditation coming on. But I was inside of the conversation of, yeah, but if you don't do it, you could spend that hour getting the client stuff done. Ooh. And then you'll be set up to get everything going. You'll do these interviews, and then you do your clients and go to the screening. And I said, because see, there I go trying to, number one, predict my future. And I don't know, I do tarot card readings, but I'm not a fortune teller. Okay? And so we need to stop trying to predict our future based on the past, because that's what's happening, right? I'm like, you know how time goes. I need to save this. The only thing that mattered to me in that moment was the truth that in that present moment, I needed to connect to myself. And I knew that if I did that, I would come out on the other side of that meditation feeling so good, where I could come here, be in a high flying place with you, and have the energy that I want to bring to the work. Instead of thinking about, why am I thinking about time, which really doesn't even exist. That's a whole nother conversation. But long story short, we made it up. So why are we so stressed out about something we created? Okay. That might be too big for this podcast. I don't know. But
wait a minute now.
Well, I don't want to go too far off on this, but I would just say, you know, I always ask my clients, if time were a person that you were having a relationship with, what would it tell me about you and how you treat it?
Whoa.
Yeah. I think that says it right there. Yeah. Yeah. It probably would say something like, well, you know, she's really great, but I mean, she's so hard on me. She's always telling me I'm not enough. I'm not there. You know, no matter what I do, I stretch myself. I bend myself in all kinds of ways. And she still just wants more and more and more. It's like, I can't give her enough of me. You know, I just feel so depleted, you know, and then she criticizes me. She says, I'm just running out of all of my good stuff.
Wow.
So instead of thinking about time in that moment, I chose to think about my energy and what was best for me.
That commitment to you.
Yeah. And then things ended up working out where, you know, I renegotiated some time with you, didn't I? And then some things have opened up where I'm going to be able to get everything done. Now, these were things that I didn't know were going to happen before I did the meditation. I just took the risk, right? Yeah. I took the risk that it was going to work out by doing what I knew energetically was best for me in that moment. Yeah. Okay. Oh, and then that client actually emailed me and was like, hey, we want to pay you some money. And guess what? It's on your way to the account. So I was like, oh, the day couldn't get any better.
Wow.
So there's a certain level of trust that has to be present. And I don't want to diminish, you know, burnout, because it's a real thing. And it's something that I've, you know, dealt with and continue to deal with. I think it's just the nature of the, you know, world that we live in. And I like to, you know, let's talk about like functional burnout, because that's the real thing. Like,
what is that, Tiana?
That's like living day to day, like functional alcoholics. They show up to work, they're still paying their bills, but they just have a lot to drink on a daily. Yeah, you can have you can be suffering from exhaustion and mentally, physically depleted, but yet you're still showing up. You still got the smile on your face. You're making all the PTA meetings. You're cooking all the best dinners. You're still, you know, making love to your husband and, you know, going to work and building your business. And inside, it's some hollowness daily. And you're just smiling. That's functional burnout. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I'm sorry, I should have said you're a partner. Making love to your partner.
You know, I'm in HR. So much of what you just said spoke directly to me. And like I said, I know a lot of other moms in this community, so much so that I'm thinking before the next thing on my calendar this afternoon, I need to spend some time working out because I did not prioritize it this morning. And I know that when I start my day without doing that, and I literally over the past few days just got back into regularly working out. I was like, is there a reason you're letting yourself go and trying to throw yourself into this project and this task and everything else without the main task, right? Which is my health and wellness. So this was my nudge to say, okay, Christina, as soon as you're done talking to Tiana, while the video downloads, like you could truly go get in a good workout, get in your good space, and then move forward with the rest of the day. Wow. Let me ask you this. So, just wow, right? For a second, I just need to wow because you've shared so much. And I just need to wow. And I don't know if you have this effect on folks often, but I knew this would be for me. And just wow, like get back into the things that work, that feed your soul, that feed your spirit.
Yeah. And really, before you jump back into it, take some time to consider why you stopped. If I asked you, Christina, do you love yourself? You would say yes.
Hands down, like that's
Hands down, I do.
not even up for
Not
discussion. Who,
even
what?
discussion. Would you hurt yourself?
I'm probably doing that by neglecting myself.
Yeah. But if I asked you, would you hurt yourself? You'd say, no, I
The
wouldn't hurt
answer is
myself.
no.
I love myself. But every single time you don't choose to prioritize the connecting to yourself, you're actually hurting yourself. You are. You may not feel the pain in the moment, in the exact moment, but you really do, right? It's in the back of your mind.
Yeah,
You feel the guilt, the resentment,
all of it.
and then you take it to the work, and then you start blaming the work, and then you start noticing they made that mistake. It just becomes an energetic cluster.
Energy draining, by the way.
Energy draining cluster F word.
Yes.
That's what it becomes. So yeah, you really want to think about that. So the next time it comes up, you're like, wait a minute, I don't hurt me. I don't hurt people. And I'm definitely not going to hurt me. Sips tea.
Sips tea. I love to do. We're on the same page with that. So when I think of, and I think I shared this earlier, balanced success and feeling like at some points in my life I've experienced it, right? There's that whole work-life balance conversation that happens. More recently, we're kind of throwing out the word balance, tossing it out, it's garbage, it's more work-life this or work-life that. There have been points in my life where I've felt balanced and successful at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
When I say the term balanced success, what comes to mind? Do you feel like it's something that you've achieved? Is it something that you're working towards? Or is it a myth? Does it just simply not exist?
Well, I think it depends on your perception of what that word means.
Mm-hmm.
By definition, balance means the even distribution of weight, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we're not talking about weight. We're talking about life, which in itself is not balanced. I have 4 children. All of them have very distinct personalities.
Mm-hmm.
My twins in the same womb, born at the same time, same and they are yin and yang.
Really?
One is, very fair skinned like his father. One is chocolate like me. One is very into, he's like athletic. He's like the quintessential, like if you put man or boy, there's a picture of him right there. Like he's the athlete. He's just hyper masculine. My other one, not so much. I tried to put him in a football field. He's like out in the field. The game's going on. He's picking flowers. Like
Stop it.
He literally like.
Is that the truth, Tiana?
That's
that different. They're that different.
They are that different. They are that different. So they are the living, breathing example of what balance is. And it's not an even distribution. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, sometimes like to answer your question, yes, I definitely have achieved balance and success. My question is like, why would I not? Why is there even a question that wouldn't be possible? Right. I told you when I was 21 years old, when I first had when I had my first child, I decided that balance in my life was going to look like being the best mom with the best career.
Yeah.
Period. And I did what I had to do to have that balance. And some weeks it looked like me having 70% of work and 30% kids. So maybe it was more with grandma or whatever. And then some weeks it looked like 80% kid and, 20% work.
Yeah.
And all of that in my world was balance because I get to decide what balance is. When it comes to work-life balance, because people have tied, evenness to that word, I like to say work-life integration. Right? It's like, well, how do I integrate this thing into this mix? Right? And how will it shift things? What will that balance look like? What does it need to look like?
Yeah.
Right. So I think when it comes to the whole idea of balance, we also have to be honest that many of us are walking around. I know I was at one point, and I still do, and I have to catch myself because we have preconceived ideas of what things are supposed to look like. And then we create our definition of balance around those things based on what we believe they're supposed to look like. But again, I said, nobody here is a fortune teller. You can't stop trying to predict the future.
Yeah.
And just focus on being in the present where you create the future. Right. And really the only place, and if we're honest to take it even further, we're trying to create balance for the future. I want to do this now. So, that's what I was trying to do earlier. No, I don't want to meditate. I want to do the emails and whatnot for my clients. So, my time will be balanced 8 hours from now. 8 hours from now, a freaking hurricane could come through the city and wipe us all out. And, I don't know what could happen in 8 hours.
Yeah.
So
why am I this moment?
Yes. And then people say, but I need to plan. And well, actually, I did plan. I made a plan and it worked. And that plan prioritized what was happening in my present. Right. And that plan involved a little bit of trusting around how everything was going to work out in the end. I knew and I declared it was going to work out. I didn't know exactly how. And then we have to be honest around our fear of the unknown. Right. Many of us don't like the unknowns. We're trying to control everything. There's a really great book that I think would be an excellent complement to this conversation. It's called The Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer.
Okay.
And it's all about his journey. He built a multi-million-dollar, I think even billion-dollar company, and it all came crashing down. I mean, he's had a life. He moved out to the woods to try to meditate, and then came back to society. But the book is about how he learned to access the present by going through some of the most challenging things in his life and learning to make peace with them in a way that he could be present to them. And practicing being with the unfolding of life versus trying to control and predict life. Right. And I think that's a big conversation for moms, because you become a mom and all of a sudden you don't just have goals for yourself anymore and, your partner in your relationship. Now society is telling you, and now you need to have goals for those kids. So everything is on a track, and that's fine. Please have the destination in mind and please have, a pretty good idea of how you're going to get there, but be flexible.
Yes.
Inside of it.
Yes. Yes.
So that when things show up, and the way that you are flexible inside of it is not being so, people are very clear about their destination oftentimes, but what they tend to not be so clear on is their commitment.
Back to that word.
Right? Because I'm committed. I'm going to do everything I need to do to get there. Okay, well, even at the sacrifice of yourself or the detriment of yourself. So your commitment to yourself is always senior. And some people say, well, it's my commitment to God. Same thing. Commitment to God is commitment to you.
Same thing. Same thing.
So that's what I think about on a daily. And I have the audacity to trust the God in me so much that I actually don't worry much about my future.
You're focused on the present.
That's the practice. And every time I shift out of that, I come back to that practice. And I do it over and over and over and over again. That's actually life. That's why we have all these tools around us. We have the Bible, we have all the other holy books, we have the self-help books. They all say the same thing.
Yeah. Keep
coming back to where life is happening in the present.
In the present.
And I get it when you have a screaming kid, angry, rebellious teenager, relationship maybe on the rocks at the moment, stuff happening, fires at work. But remember, life doesn't get in the way.
Life does not get in the way.
So your commitment gets in the way.
Start with our commitment to self every single day.
Every single moment.
Every single moment.
Yeah. One of my biggest lessons as a mom, and one of my most painful lessons as a mom, was realizing that I had been too generous with myself. I had shared myself I had nothing left to give. It was such an awakening.
Yeah.
And then I realized that actually, like this whole thing of, selfishness, no, actually being selfish when it comes to connecting with yourself and taking care of yourself, that is a good thing. Like I pride myself on being selfish. It's one of when people say, what are some good things about you? I'm honest, I'm loyal, I'm loving, I'm selfish.
That's a new one.
And I learned to love my children and my family so much more, and in a healthier way when I became selfish, because I also became like a lot happier, a lot more grounded, more calm.
So wait, Tiana. So and a second ago, I was like, we've already covered so much amazingness. Like, Christina, don't pull any more, but I got to pull a little bit more. So I think about self-care Sundays. I think about all of this conversation around self-care and what we think of or what we attribute, right? Like bubble baths and lighting some candles. And no, we're shifting the conversation here. Just in this conversation we're having, we're shifting that. Yeah. It's not self-care with the bubble baths.
No, I don't. I mean, I love a bubble bath and I love a massage, and those are things that, as long as I'm on the planet and they're available to me, I definitely will indulge in a lot of them. I call that luxuriating, and I love to luxuriate. However, self-care to me is managing my mind and my energy daily. And it's my self-care and it's my response ability. So notice how I broke that up. Response ability. Managing of my mind and my energy dictates my ability to respond to my life and the people in it.
Wow.
Yeah. So there's nothing more. And that's every person's, like my children have a response ability to manage their mind and their energy And part of my responsibility is to help guide them in that practice. If I don't teach them anything else, now that's something else that my younger kids are getting much more.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, trust me, I'm a big proponent of education. I want them to, do what makes them happy. If it's going to college or whatever, there's so many options now. I can't create what it looks like for them, but I want them to do well. My younger kids, whatever they decide to do. But the thing that I want them to do most, right, and get really good at is managing their mind and their energy, because I'm clear if they can do that, they can do anything. I'm also clear if they can't do that, there's not much that they can do. Yeah.
I'm writing that down.
So that's
even though I have a transcript.
That's care. That's how you care for the self.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. Wow. How can we find you? And I know there are a number of ways. I know there's a book. Talk to me a little bit about how we can find you, how we can work with you, connect with you, support you, and get support from you.
Yeah, so the best way to do that, I mean, I'm definitely on all of the social media channels. You can find me Tiana at Tihanna_Louise on most platforms. But the best way is to go to my website, TihannaLouise.com. Check out my blog. I have a wealth of information there. I mean, I've poured so much into that. You could have a whole coaching session just from my blog. But there's also space on my site where you can get some free resources. I have speaker training. I have leadership development trainings, audio trainings that I've done. And then you can also send an inquiry if you want to talk about coaching or bringing me into, your group, company, things like that. I'm more than happy to do that. The thing that I'm most excited about that I'm doing now is a thing called the Energy Leadership Index Assessment. And this is a service that I offer. You take an assessment. You can do it as a 360 where people in your life and at work rate you as well, or you can just do it individually. But it takes a snapshot, like the results. When you get the results, it's a snapshot of your unique personal blend of energy and all the energy levels. And then we have a 90-minute debrief session where we go through your results. We look at all of your energy levels, and we look at the places where you're, flying really high, and the places that you're not. And we get clear on why that is, but more importantly, how to move and shift out of it in the moment. Because everything that we talked about sounds really, really good. But, there's an art, there's a science to knowing how to shift in the moment.
Yeah.
And many people on the planet don't know how to do it. You learn how to do it. You're inside of the 1%, right? That's operating. The people who you're like, man, it just seems like they just roll through anything and they just, they never get, because they know how to shift. I'm not talking about the people that just bypass stuff, but the people who really are powerfully moving and operating in the world. And so that's something that I'm like, if you're like, what's the thing that you really want to do to help the planet? I want to do more of those. And so I invite anybody to go to the energy leadership section of my website, anybody that's listening, and sign up for one of those assessments and debrief sessions. Website address again? TihannaLouise.com. And it's Tiana like Rihanna. So TihannaLouise.com. I love it. This has been awesome. Like I said, I needed this. I knew going into it, I needed this conversation. And I'm so excited to share it with the community. I'm so excited to share it with other moms. It's so full of gems and wisdom and actionable steps, right? We don't have to overthink it. There's no reinvention of the wheel. It's as simple as getting quiet for a minute. Just get quiet for a minute, connect with ourselves,
Bubble bath, great, great, great. But connect with ourselves so that we can then connect with our families, connect with our colleagues. This has been amazing. I will be on the website, Tiana, because I started this saying, I need you, and I'm going to close it saying, I need you. And I know so many others do as well. So thank you for the work you do, because it certainly makes a difference.
Thank you so much. You have been a pleasure. And I really appreciate the opportunity and the trust that you extended to me to connect with you and your audience. And I will close it out by saying, I want you. So the feeling's mutual.
Yes. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, take care.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much for listening today. Make sure you stay connected with the virtual six-figure mom community. Hit subscribe for podcast episodes. Visit our website at www.virtualsixfiguremom.com and join our growing online community on Instagram and LinkedIn.